Take my hand, oh Abba Father, show me what you say. Guide me from within my spirit, I will let you lead.
There we go. Got it all set up. Good evening, y'all. So today we're going to be painting a nice emerald beach. I've been contemplating the subject for a hot minute, and I finally came up with the topic. It's just going to be a nice little kind of a beachy area with some sand dunes towards the top, smaller sky, and then some crystal clear water with one single wave going all the way across. I've actually got the give me 1 second. I've actually got the reference photo right here in front of me. It was something that I was spending a great deal of time thinking about painting, but just never actually decided until like maybe about an hour ago. And right now I'm in Panama City. So if y'all wouldn't mind going ahead and sharing out the broadcast to your friends, I'm gonna get started. And it's gonna be done with a palette knife and with a brush. So you'll get a little bit of mixture today. So the first thing I like to do typically is start up in the sky and then work my way down. And we've got a kind of cloudless sky. There's like maybe one cloud that's real far in the distance. You can't hardly see it. It's kind of pink and purple. It's about right up top. And that's what we're going to not be focusing on first. We're going to focus on the darkest point right here. We're going to work our way over. And it's a pretty small area over towards the top. As a matter of fact, I should probably flip this sucker on its side. There we go. This is actually inspired by one of the beaches over in 30A. I believe it's Water Sound or Watercolor, one of the two. The first thing we're going to be doing is just covering it with a little bit of this ultramarine blue we've got here. Keeping it nice and dark in the corner, and then just gradually letting it fade out the further we get. And the further down you get towards the horizon line, the more white you're going to use because it's going to be a little bit more misty. And the further this way you get too, because you got your light source over that way. So keep it nice and thick and almost like you're coming around this in a circle because it gradually just fades out with more white. So you can just tap it gently and go around in a circle. Gradually. As the pink gets thinner, the less thick you want it. The less thick it'll get. So just tap it in, go around in a circle to kind of blend it together. Then you can come back and hit with whites. And one thing I will probably be doing, since we've got a cloud right out around here, is be adding the clouds after it's completely dried. It'll take about a day or two to dry, maybe, if that. So now I'm taking just a little bit of white with that ultramarine blue I've got. I'm just kind of lining it out where I've got my horizon line. Just letting it fade out more and more by using more and more white the further I get out here. It's okay to turn your brush over and just darken it because you want it to be a gradual fade. You can take it and spread it. Fun story, on my way back home about 20 minutes ago, it was downpouring rain so hard we could only go up to about 20 miles an hour without bumping into the car in front of us. Could only see about 15 to 20 feet around or in front of us. It was pretty bad. There we go. So once you've blocked in all your sky, which I'm going to be working pretty quickly right now, just because I'm under time constraints. I've got another project that I have to be working on after this. But once you get your sky completely blocked in, right under the sky, you're going to have your sand dunes. So I'm intentionally leaving it real dark right here, and then we're going to come back with white and start milking the sky up just a little bit and fading it together, kind of like a gradient works. If y'all wouldn't mind sharing out the broadcast, that'd be awesome. You can share it into your groups, you can share it with your friends, either way. Tag people that you think would appreciate this. Here it is. Got my big brush. So now I'm just going to start doing cross strokes, which allows me to thin the paint out a whole bunch. And once it's completely covered in blue, I'm going to be able to come back and just make it into a gradient and just eventually white it out. Almost completely, but not completely. Just a nice fade. That's all we're going for. And once your paint starts to thin out on your brush, all you have to do is go back and reload. And make sure you hit up top on these little corners and edges of the canvas too, because one thing I found whenever I go back to frame it is sometimes the framers will allow some of the corners to show, and these little edges, you want them to be completely covered in paint because they'll sometimes show. So go back and be sure to paint them. You don't want them to show up too much. It doesn't look professional or as classy as you would like if you prefer not to see any of the canvas. I prefer not seeing my canvas. I like to see nothing but paint. Unless it's a really, really small painting, in which case I just have fun with. So now at this point, I'm just going back and touching up all the little grains. There are little spots on this canvas where you'll see little dots of white where the canvas is actually showing through. I just call them grainy spots. And you just go back and kind of scrub it in with thin amounts of paint because you don't want it to be super thick like you got in the corner. This corner is meant to be dark. Everything else is meant to stay towards the lighter side. And by the way, let me know where y'all are watching from. I shared it out to a couple different places in groups on purpose. And I love it when I get new people that are not from around here just coming and watching. So at this point, my brush has got very little paint on it, so I'm just spreading it thin at this, keeping it nice and thin, and paying close attention to my horizon line, which is going to be right about here. And you can take the thick amount of paint that's right around the edge, and just start pulling it down and bringing it sideways. Just extend the life of the paint. If you have to, go back, reload with a tiny amount on your palette. So some point this week, I'm going to have, more than likely, I'm going to have a guest speaker on that'll come and paint with me. More like just a friend coming to paint with me. Not really big into those real fancy, oh, you got a guest speaker. It's like, it's a friend, fellow artist. I was actually planning on having Joanna Lauer, who I completed this project with. I did a beach scene with her, and it turned out incredible. And she did a musical piece as her art. We did an art-to-art collaboration, and we titled it Inspiration. So the way it worked, there we go. So now we're doing that reversed, that gradient I was telling you all about. Just to let y'all know while I'm telling y'all about this collaboration. But this collaboration, the way it worked is we ended up going and look at that, that's nice. I did a piece to inspire her. She did a piece to inspire me. And then I believe I had a beach scene for my first one, and it looked a lot like 30A. It was real nice. is just a very, very nice beachy area over where I live. Just for those of y'all that don't know. And she composed a really, really good song called "He Said Love." It was basically about Jesus and why he died for us. It turned out really well. And then we turned around and made it into. Well, I was inspired by that, and I made a communion piece. For those of y'all that don't know what that is, communion is basically where you go in remembrance, and you can do either, I think it's unleavened bread or just a piece of bread or a cracker or something, in remembrance of him giving his body up for you and taking all those beatings that he did and dying on the cross for us. And then the wine or the juice, whichever you prefer, represents his blood. There we go. That's what I composed. I didn't compose it. That's what I completed. Okay. So next part, I'm just going to go into a little tiny bit of crimson with a palette knife. Start mixing that so I don't get it too much into my brush. If I can find it. Here we go. He was playing hard to get. And we're just going to go into that white and blue that we had earlier. We don't need a whole bunch of it. Just a small, small amount of the crimson because it's really powerful and you don't want a whole bunch. This is about the consistency that you want, and we're going to go back into white and kind of dull it down too. Go into white and blue. So we can get almost like a warm lavender. Because we want it to be faded like this. There we go. That's looking better. So now we've got more towards the red side, but it's a lavender. So that's what we're going to use as our little cloud. And I think I'm actually going to use a smaller brush for that. So we'll go into our detail brush. This is a hog bristle brush, so it's nice and stiff, which means it'll bend, but it'll go right back to its original form. So we're just going to go into that and lay it on there nice and semi-thick. We don't need too many details on there. So make sure your brush is nice and loaded up, nice and thick. So we got about 3 different strands with a little bit of blue shining through it. So if it catches and mixes a little bit with it, that's okay. There we go. And that's how simple it is. It doesn't need to show up too much, just a little bit. It needs to be a similar consistency as what we've got on the sky, just slightly showing up. And you can even pull it down and blend it away almost to where it looks further away. And it mixes with the blue whenever you swipe at it. It looks harder to see. There we go. Okay, so the next portion, we're just going to have to clean off our brushes and get ready for some dark browns and greens, because on sand dunes you'll see all these really, really dark, dirty colors whenever you're looking at the seagrass, or sea oats as they call them here. Locals call them sea oats. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be painting those in first. I would say paint in what's under them first, but because it's white, white mixes up a little bit too much. So I'm going to say we're going to paint those darks first. And we can paint around with the whites. We can do that after. Usually I paint front to back or back to front, like what's furthest away to what's closest. But right now, we're going to do the opposite. Okay, so we've got some really, really dark greens. So I'm going to use phthalo blue mixed with yellow and almost a little bit of crimson just because it's kind of dirty. I'm going to keep this in a corner away from everything else because phthalo blue is super powerful. If you're ever painting along with me, keep that phthalo blue in the corner and isolate it as much as you can. Because if you mix it with anything else, it will more than likely overtake it, unless you have a lot of the other paint. So let's see. I'd say right back here is where we're going to first start. So let's start mixing up the yellows with it. So I'm just going to show you all what it looks like on my palette. This is the green that I just mixed with phthalo blue and the medium yellow. The way you work it is you take a little bit of that blue. Try not to let it roll around your palette. take more towards the yellow side, and then you go in, get yourself some crimson, just about like, probably about like that, just a dab. You don't need much, just enough to make it look almost brown, to darken it. What crimson does is it dulls colors if you have enough of it. And we're trying to have a super, super dark green. And what I can see, we need a little bit more yellow because I didn't put enough in there. And then go into some crimson. And it's okay if it looks almost black, because you can always come back and hit it with a little bit of white later if you want. Or even yellow lightens the color. But we want it to be super, super dull and very dark. All right. So one thing that you should know whenever you're painting is most of the time that you paint is spent on the palette itself, mixing the paints, mixing the colors, trying to reach a certain color. The more time you spend on it, honestly, the better the painting will look. Okay. Hey, Sheila has paint. Awesome. Happy to hear that. You can paint along with me if you want. Let's see, right about here's where we're going to start. Right now we're just painting sand dunes if you're just tuning in. Painting sand dunes along with a couple waves. I think maybe 2 or 3 of them. But one big line of them right here. One big wave. And you're looking in towards the shore. So that's the perspective that I want to give y'all. So I'm going to even paint the edges just a little bit too. So I'm intentionally just keeping it real thin all throughout the entire set of dunes. That way I can come over the top of it with white paint, or it's more like a very, very bright brown that's almost white. It's very milky brown that I'm going to come across and over with. And the way I'm loading it is just kind of tapping and pulling into it, tap it in, push, and then pulling it. That way I can just kind of tap it here on the canvas as well and give the effect of kind of grassy areas. And then I'm going to give them gentle pulls over here as well. Actually, we'll do pulls upwards to give the illusion of grass. So I'm actually changing up the color here once on a blue moon. I'm actually going into some blue on that same greenish brown color that I've got to kind of change it up, make it look a little bit further away, because blue is a color of distance. The further away you get from it, the more you got that blue and white. So towards this edge, I'm just going to let it fade out gradually. I'm just giving it nice little taps. I'm going to let it fade out and go downwards. As a matter of fact, I'm actually going to grab my other brush that has the blue in it. Now, here's my detail brush. I'm going to go into that blue and white mixture that we had earlier, and I'm going to actually bring it down just a little bit. Bring that sky down. I'm actually going to dip with that same green and blue into here and kind of just make this look like it's going to start disappearing. And tap it in with that same color, with more towards the blue side. This color just more blue. Let it fade. But I'm keeping it light. I want more reds towards here, so it looks like it's fading away. And then more towards the corner, we're going to go back into that blue and white and kind of mix it in so it looks further away. White and blue is the color of like humidity, it's distance. It's been a while since I've painted with a brush, so kind of picking things back up. And then I'm also going to kind of come over here and just muddy it up a little bit. kind of blend it out. Give the illusion of distance. Fun times. There we go. Now I think I'll just take a regular old filbert number 8. We'll go into that same dark brown color that we had that we're mixing. We'll just start filling in the holes and start creating a little bit of distance and illusion of different little spots of grass. Just by doing little taps and leaving little indentations as well for the sand to show through. And I'm just kind of tapping and pulling down on my brush. And we want it to be real nice and thick and profound, closer to the edge. And you can actually give it little tiny pulls. Towards this side to make it look a little closer. Matter of fact, I'm even going to bring out some grass and some other dunes over here. Just give it a little shapes, little bitty shapes here and there, like you've got a dune, and then you can actually grab that and just kind of pull it to create the illusion of shadows. But we're going to actually make this, for the most part, look far away. So I'm going to go back into a little bit more of that blue, come over here, start filling in some holes, and gradually making it further away. So now's the perfect time to kind of break up the monotony over here. So some of these guys need to be a little bit taller than the other. So I'm just going to kind of come over the tops of them. Just a couple of them with that bluish color. And it's going to be similar to this, but just a little taller. I'm going to come over the top, kind of give her little pulls. Like you got a couple spritzes of grass. And I'm also going to be pulling it downwards this way, so we can give the illusion of little hills coming at an angle. Oh, here's a technique that I'd like to show you all. This is called an underpainting technique. It's typically I would do this with Indian yellow, but I don't have that on hand at the moment. So I'm just going to use medium yellow and keep it nice and thin on the brush. So the way to do that is just take your brush dip it in and kind of take it away from where you got your paint, put it in a spot that doesn't have paint, and just pull it. And then you can paint right under wherever you want it to be for your light to show for it to have a lot of sunlight. So in my case, I want, we can have it right here. Just a little spot. I just want to show you all this. Then you take whatever brown mixture you have and just kind of pull it upwards. And then you can go around it and give it shadows. Or you can go back into it as many times as you want to muddy it up, but it'll still have that nice flavor. And then just give it those shadows. Just by pulling it. All right, now we're going to go into a different brush. This is my white brush. It's got nothing on it. And it's going to be used strictly for white. White and blue. So I'm going to go into some of these blue mixtures already. On the can, actually, you know what? It would actually be kind of nice if I had my knife. So I'm going to go into the knife. And I'm going to kind of mix up just a little bit of this baby blue with that white I've got up here. So you can barely tell that it's not white. And the closer you get, the more brown and yellows you'll use. But the further away, the more whites and blues you're going to want, just to convey distance. But right now, that's all we're doing, just conveying a little bit of different distance. So I'm going to go right over here. And I'm going to break up these little patches of grass with a palette knife. Excuse me. And I'm being real close and careful to pull it down at an angle so I can convey which direction this whole set of sand dunes are going. They're all going this way, which is kind of down at an angle. Just do tiny touches and pulls when you want to just convey little breaks. And you want to make sure that it's not super muddy, like it'll catch some of the paint that's already under there. So just do one pull, go back, wipe it off, and then come back into it. Unless you're being real careful. So I'm going to start actually adding a little bit of this purple color to it too, to convey even more distance. It's just a little lavender, and I want it to look a little bit further away. So this amount of white that we have already is kind of too much. And the purple color is the same color that we have on the clouds. So just add a little bit of that to the white, and then you've got a nice distance color. And I'm just putting it on nice and thick. So if you ever find yourself with too much of the color, that is quite okay. What you can do is you can take a little brush that's got nothing on it, or take the detail brush that's got a little bit of purple, go back into this white and kind of start spreading. It's okay if it's got a little bit of this blue mixed in. You can just go back into white and kind of balance it out. And if you have to, keep grabbing big blobs of white until it bounces. And then the closer it is, the darker it is. The further away it gets, the less you'll see. So I'm just going to kind of make my way around, kind of play with it. Now, the closer you get to the foreground, the more reds you're going to want to use. So the more of this little light purple color that you've got mixed, same as your clouds. So in my case, I'm actually going to go into just the smallest hint of yellow, just the tiniest bit. Not a whole bunch, just barely on there. And then we're going to go into a gigantor block of white, and that creates our nice light brown color. There we go. That's about what we want. Because the closer you get, the less distance you have. Or, yeah, the less distance you'll see. There we go. You can even grab white and just pull this brown color you have already. It'll create almost a cooler brown. I'm just teaching y'all to play with color and pull it around, like push paint. There. And we'll create different little sand hills as well while we're doing this. Change the direction of your strokes. Now, I am working from a photo, but at the same time, I have added a lot of stuff to it, and I'm messing around. Oh, goodness. Y'all have added a lot of comments for the last 2 seconds. You're an inspiration. Thank you. I love that my favorite place to be in the world. Oh, favorite place is the beach. That looks so real. Love the white beaches on here. Oh my goodness. My internet went down. Bad storm just went through. That's all right. And then, yes. It's no worries, Sheila. I'm just going to give you a recap. I just added the sky. I'd used ultramarine blue up at the top right corner. I used white and started coming back this way with white just to kind of give a gradient feel and show that our light source is over this way. And then over here, I added kind of a warmish purple towards the lavender side, but it's more to the red. It's a lavender, but it's more towards the red as my clouds. I used a really, really dark brown that's more towards the blue side, but it's got some crimson in it, so it's really almost black all the way up until this point. That's when I started using blue, like phthalo blue, to convey more distance, and then I just use white and that same color to make it look even further away. And at this point, I'm going back and touching different spots with white to create sand. And beaches, before I stopped painting with my brushes for a while, they were kind of my go-to thing. And at this point, I'm actually doing a lot better than I used to. So I think the break was a very, very good thing, because I'm able to see color a lot better than I used to because of different paintings, different styles that I've tried, and just not being afraid to try different things even. And I can also just come back and teach it really simply. So by creating okay, yes, I see the difference to admit from a few minutes ago. Loving it. Thank you. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going back with white, and I was using blue over here to convey it's further away. You will eventually be able to see it. I'll post a picture of this whole thing when I'm done. And then I kind of, towards the middle, I've got blue in it, but I've got some crimson. So I use this and a little bit of white and blue. So it's more towards the blue side. And then gradually I'm just fading it and going into like white with that same mixture of colors with a little bit of yellow and a lot more white. So it's appearing more brown and white. And I'm actually going into the same mixtures that are already on, like these sets of grass right here. Yeah, I'm actually going into those, and I'm just using white to kind of create the illusion of sand dunes around them. I'm literally just grabbing the dark colors and creating their own shadows by using what's already on the canvas. That's the cool part about using oil paints, is you can work with what's already on there longer. That's why I paint with oils, is you can mix things on the canvas. You don't have to wait for the canvas to dry or anything along those lines. Here we go. We'll start pulling these guys around. We'll cover this one up. Look at that. It's just nice. And you know what? Right now, I'm actually going to go into some of that darker color, and we'll create a shadow right here. start creating some nice shadows on the far sides without completely getting rid of our dunes. And that's just by going into the pre-mixed grassy color that we've got right here and a little bit of white. The white acts as a blue, so it's cooler. And yes, it does look semi-real. Oh man, I'm so tempted to just make this a sand dune. Ooh, shadows. Yes. I'm very, very tempted to just make this a sand dune painting, but I want to add the big waves over here that I was intending to. So maybe we'll just make it the shallows with one little tiny wave. And now, man, I need to go back into Hobby Lobby today and get myself some new brushes, new detail brushes, because this is actually going to be super useful for painting right here. I didn't realize how useful it would be until literally just now. Can y'all hear me all right now? My alarm just went off. Shut off the camera for half a second. I still need that liquid clear. Well, I'm actually not using liquid clear on this. So if you wanted to, you could actually follow along. I would recommend going back and watching the whole video so you can learn exactly what I'm doing. Ooh, so the same color that's up here, I'm actually going to start using that here shortly. But I'm going to use the technique I showed y'all earlier for the underpainting right here. Yes, we'll make it a nice dramatic yellow and maybe even a little bit of like crimson added into there too. Yeah, we'll just, what we're doing right here is called the underpainting. I'm just going to kind of pull it around and we're going to kind of put it on a hill. Yeah. So I'm just going to kind of horse around with some color, create the illusion of a sand dune right here. Yeah, we'll have some waves coming over here and we'll make this like the forefront. And I think I'm even going to play around and we'll say we'll have some nice colors over here as well. This is a very easy technique that anybody can do. This is by underpainting this color really thin with yellow, you can create yourself some nice, oh yeah, you can create yourself some nice highlights. So like right here, you see a little bit of the sun. I'm actually going to scoot over closer to it so that y'all can see everything a little bit more. This is oil. Everything I'm doing is oil. I actually haven't worked with acrylics in a hot minute. So I've underpainted with a little bit of crimson, but mostly yellow. And I've got myself my dark browns that are up here. Now you have your darkest darks closer to the foreground. And I'm actually going to go into a little bit of crimson just to keep it more towards the red side so that this pops nicely once I'm done with it. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I need to go a little bit thicker with the yellow. Lesson learned. This is a kind of trial and error type deal, which is okay. Oh, look, it's got a little bit of blue mixed in. That's okay. We can work with that. We mostly want to keep this towards the yellow side so that when we come in with this blue, it looks nice and golden. We want it semi-thin. There. Now let's try that out. Now we're just taking this same color that's already on here and kind of flicking upwards. Or you can tap, either way. And you want to leave little spaces in between. That's kind of the color that we're going for. So I'm just going to kind of paint around it. There we go, that's better. Now I'm going to go more towards the blue side, so I'm actually going to use that same phthalo blue into the same mixture that I have right here on towards this side to keep it nice and dark. We want the shadows to be nice and cool. So I'm going to leave this nice little area right there. Oh, goodness. Look at that beautiful mess he is making right now. Thank you. It is kind of a mess right now until you see what's going to happen afterwards. Thank you, Eli. Much appreciated. So kind. All right. So let's go into some white. So right now I'm just mixing up this color with some yellow and a lot of white. And what this is going to do is come back and create this kind of nice whitish, milky brown that we had earlier. And we're going to put that on the canvas. That's going to be our foreground sand. We want it a little bit more along this color right here. So it's okay if we actually grab some of this right here and just kind of pull it down with white. As a matter of fact, I could actually use a bigger brush because that's taking too long. Get over here. And then we can take that same color right here, just white, back into this darker mixture. You just cut right into it, right over it, and then just and create our shadows automatically. It's super, super useful whenever you're painting. What it does is it creates a little harmony between all the colors. And if you ever have any trouble, just go back into the same dark color with the white and then just make it again. which is going to be what I'm doing right now. Just going into that again. That greenish blue color, or the brownish color with white. So it looks almost like a metallic shadow. And then I'm actually going to do one right here with a little bit of something shining forth so we can create like a stair-stepping effect. So I need another brush with yellow. Here we go. So this guy, I'm going to have a little bit of yellow, but more towards the white side. So let's just try that right about there. Matter of fact, we can even get that brownish color we had right over here, kind of milk it up again. And we're even going to push as far back as over here. I'm going to keep pushing. You know what? I'm actually going to add a little bit of that bluish color. Okay. I wish that would be nice. And I don't take things serious unless it comes to, this is true, harmony. Yes. By that, I just mean like the color scheme, keeping it in sync. There we go. Yeah, I'm actually going to grab some of that. There we go. I'm going to grab the tiniest bit of white to, or tiniest bit of blue to create the illusion of that kind of color. Because we want it to be kind of this muted color, but at the same time, I do like how the closer you get, the more yellow and browns you can see. So I'm going to kind of work with that. To a point. But then we're going to come back over with this darker color and just go right to the foreground. And I actually just came back from Hobby Lobby, believe it or not, and I was framing a bunch of my beach pictures. I was not expecting to come up with this nonsense here. Like, I'll show you all the picture that I'm working with, and this looks nothing like it, except for maybe this area. It's kind of entertaining to see what sometimes comes out of these pictures whenever you're just messing around having fun. You'd be surprised what God can do for you. There we go. Let's just take that same color that's right over here. Just kind of fade it. We'll take the big brush. We'll create almost a little drop off right here. And I'm just going into this color right here, using a lot of white to glop it off. And it's going to create a nice, cool shadow, but it's also kind of muted, which is what we want for these the shadowy side, where it doesn't really catch the sunlight. So we got a light source, it'll hit about right here. So I'm actually going to go into that darker color. Nice, you can see my nose. Well, okay, bye Eli. It's good seeing you again. Ooh, you know what I can do? I can actually get some yellow and white. Just come into this area right here. We'll make this another, nah, we got the light source coming this way. So we've got right about here. I think we'll do light striking right here. Go into that real dark color, and we'll just pull it up. And just start tapping it. And we can go back into it with yellow even, if you want. Oh, one technique that I like to use a lot of times too, that I don't typically explain to my students, is I blur my eyes. Um, I have 20/20 vision, so whenever I'm real close and I'm trying to find out the different values of the colors and kind of skew things, I just blur my eyes. I kind of let it just blur out so I can see what looks like what and where I need to add darker shadows or lighter lights, you know. just stuff like that. Ooh, yes. There we go. Just adding straight white, straight yellow with that color actually does a world of difference. There we go. So I just took that same dark brown that I got in the background, added that yellow to it, and it turns it to a nice shade of green. So I'm going to kind of mix that up with it a little bit and kind of play with it. And then I'm going to go back into the shadows with that same darkish color, the blue and the white. Create this kind of backdrop for it, or not a backdrop, but kind of some nice shadows to it. I'm even going to add a little bit of purple here just to kind of throw it off, because you need some reds in your foregrounds. So that dark brown with a little bit of yellow, and we're golden. Look at that. Creates a nice warm kind of feeling color. Just a nice rich brown, which is what we're going after. Okay. And then just create those shadows around it. And then I'll be coming back and touching up with like this nice brown we have here, that we have coming around here as well. I'm gonna try not to mix up too much with my blues. Let's grab you. See how I'm leaving this nice white spot open right here? So why I'm doing that is so I can come back with this nice white and yellow brown, or very white milky brown, and just create another ledge. And I'm coming here with the shadows right over here again. And I'm going to actually make it a little bit steeper than we've already got it. I want to create multiple ledges, not just one. There we go. Then the closer we get, the more purples we're going to add, more reds. Oh goodness, that's a little bit much. I accidentally grabbed a huge glop of crimson. That is not good. But that's okay, that's a quick fix. You know what? We're going to palette knife the crap out of this. Be gone, crimson. I will scrape you out if I have to. And now for the white. There we go. Kind of. Here we go. Now we just grab a little bit of that blue color, mix it in, create some more profound shadow. And then I'm going to kind of leave this open. We're going to make it to where there's a little ledge right here. I'm going to actually patch it off even with some grass. We'll go right over here with some grass, and then some of that darker brown and blues. And even grab some of that yellow so that we know where we're going. And just have it drop off right there. We've got our shadows that we're going to mix in just a little bit right over here. Create some drama. And I'm actually dipping into some phthalo blue over here to kind of create the illusion of like a little bit of this is further away. Oh, not further away. Sorry, a little bit darker shadows. That's what I was going after. Now let's try that out. Because here we go. Your darker shadows are going to, or your darker grass is going to be a little bit more towards the dark side or towards the blue side, especially when you get up close. Let's try just adding a little bit of that darker color mixed right there, then pull it down. There we go. What do y'all think so far? Other than the laughy emojis that I'm seeing, because I have been messing around. And I'll fully own that. What are y'all thinking so far? And by the way, if you wouldn't mind sharing it out for me. And this I will be posting, I will be actually going over to Hobby Lobby and framing, and I will probably put this for sale somewhere here in the near future. What did y'all think? What do y'all think so far? Is this something that you'd like to see painted more often here in the near future? Or would you prefer like mountain scenes? Just give me some ideas while I'm still painting. There we go. Ooh, I'm gonna catch the light right there. Yes, indeed. Hey, thank you. Sheila says, I think it looks great, truly. I think this is definitely one of my better paintings. Thank God, because I had no idea what I was going to paint when I got on here. I was just leaning towards. Okay, let's get a little bit of yellow over here. I was leaning more towards the. Let's just reference a photo and go from there because I have no creative inspiration for it today, or at least didn't know what I was going to do. All right, let's get some of that yellow and white and brown. We'll just kind of bring that down right over here. Be sure to wipe off your brush occasionally because you do not want it to look muddy. I will come back and finish watching. I have to make some kitten formula for some orphan kittens. Oh, awesome. Go for it. For those of y'all that don't know Sheila, she actually runs a like an animal rescue shelter. She does a great job. She's got a big heart for animals. Oh goodness. Wrong brush. Ooh. Cut myself a little bit too much of that there. Ooh, yellow. Sounds like someone's snoring in the next room over. Must be the dog. Now, I'm letting it be real yellow over towards this area, but the further back, I'm going to kind of add a little bit more towards the blues. keep it further away. Now, I've got a lot of yellow right here, so I'm going to have to correct that because you have your brightest brights towards the foreground. So I'm going back in with some brown, which has a lot more towards the blue side. I'm just adding that. It's also got a little bit of red, which is all right. There. That's actually not a bad idea. So I'm going to break this up with a little bit of green. Well, not green, but blue. The shadow colors that we've got over here. There, I'm just going to start pulling it this way. So right now I'm just going into that brownish color I mixed earlier, adding a little bit of blue and going into white so that I can have almost an extension of the paint. So it creates this nice kind of steel blue, kind of brownish hue. I'm just going to mix that in, kind of bring it down. I'm even going to hit the edges really hard because I don't want this to show up later. I don't want the edges to show up whenever I frame it because this one deserves a frame. It's one of those nice paintings. Occasionally I'll have one of those guys where they just deserve to be framed. Ooh, we can leave a nice ledge right there. I think I'm going to do that. So I'll go back, wipe off the brush. Go into some white and brown. Maybe even just a smidge of yellow. Just to give it a rich flavor. And the kind of, oh, that was a little bit much. Keep it a little bit more toned. There we go. And then we'll go right into it, right at the ledge, and just kind of outline the ledge. And we'll create almost like an upwards ridge of dune right there. And then we'll come up through it. We can even cut in through it to create multiple ledges, or ridges, I should say. And all you have to do to create the shadows is go into that darker brown color that you mixed earlier. Kind of press in really hard. And then kind of pull down at an angle away. And then if you want to add some, like, let's say some grassy stuff, go for a nicer kind of pointed brush. Be sure you wipe it off. Make sure you have no odorless paint thinner on it, because that would not end well for you. Go into it, go into the browns, maybe get a little bit of phthalo blue, some crimson. Not too much. You get too much, you're going to have a nice red on your hands, and you don't want that. That's not a fun time. Doink. There. Tap it in. Tap around the edges. You can even tap around an edge too. Create yourself a little hill with some grass on it. And kind of pull it upwards if you want to. Create some grassy things here. And then you can even do it, take a step further and get some yellow on your brush. Get that smaller brush. Then take it into this same warm brown that you have from trying to make it real dark. And then go create almost a richer, kind of a richer grassy feel where you got some sunlight striking. You can mix it in there if you want. Pull it upwards. Be creative with it. And take that sandy color and kind of paint it upwards. Remember, that angle is important. And if you want, you can outline the ridge of it with a little bit of yellow to kind of give it some distinction. And then kind of tone it back if it's too much with a little bit of crimson and blue. Just like that. Then you could, if you want, you can come back over it with some more grass. Just by taking and pulling it down. Now I'm going to kind of create this little area of sandy, shadowy sand. Ooh. And then right here, we'll have a little bit more white. So let's get this right here. Just have a few areas where you got some highlights on your sand where it shows through. And then I'm going to kind of drag it downwards a little bit because this looks like a ridge. Actually, you know what? We'll fill this in. Just like this. We'll just fill it in. Fill in the gap. Leave a nice open space where we can put our dark grass on it, and then paint our shadows on once again. I'm even going to go into some tiny bits of purple because we're in the foreground on those shadows. Just like right here, I'm going to kind of add it right here. And then come back over with some darker color. Oh, too much. Ooh, you know what? I could actually add one more hill. One more little bit of light. I think that's what I'm going to do. One tiny last edition. Just like the lights shining forth like that. All right. There we go. All right. I think I'm going to be done recording for now. If anybody wants to know anything in particular, any specific details on how I paint or how to do what I do, just shoot me an inbox. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I'm still here. Oh, I was actually about to drop off. But seeing as you're here, I'll stay on for a little bit longer until I finish this area. I'm just about done, anyways. I was just about to put everything away. But there was nobody present up until you showed up. But I guess I'll just go ahead and start adding in all the nice details and shadows right here while we're waiting. There. I think the last little bits that I have to do now are just right here where the ocean is. In which case, we're just going to have some fun because it's going to be some emerald color and crystal clear. Maybe a couple little choppy waves here. We'll see. Don't have that much to do. I think maybe about 30 minutes of work. Gotta wash off my brushes. All of them have paint on, except for maybe two. And my most usable ones, they're kind of struggling because they've got a lot of darks on them. So they need to get a lot of cleaning. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere then. Appreciate it, Sheila. I was going to dip, but you have changed my mind. Because I kind of do want to record this entire process, and I don't see it taking much more than like 30 more minutes once I clean off my brushes and start getting to work on that there ocean. Just down a couple waves. And then have a nice purple-ish and blue water and green, nice emerald green. Because in the picture, it's got a lot of purple towards the shorelines, but at the same time, it has a bunch of blues. And I want to use that blue. So I'm going to actually clean off my palette real quick. Get all these nice mid-toned colors out of the way. It's a bummer because they were actually super useful. Goodbye, midtones. Tis the end of you. Oh. You know what? We could use a couple splashers too, huh? Nah, we'll just have some nice calm ones right over here. So we're just going to go into some yellow. We're going to kind of make a nice little brownish, kind of like this color, brown, all the way over here. Let's try that out. That should be about right. Yep, there we go. That's it. Nothing to it. Just a middle, like moderately bright, almost a yellowish white. We can even kind of tone it down with some gray. Some of the greens that we have already. Just the whites and greens. If we want to. Mix it in with those blues. Kind of fade them out. And it's still super bright. Yeah, we'll break it up a little bit where the shore is getting hit multiple places. Yeah, we'll just pull in a little bit more right here towards the blue. There. And we'll just kind of pull it. Ooh, like there's some shadows over here. So much easier to do with darker colors. There. And then we'll go back and hit that with some blue. Super easy. Now which brush to use? That one's probably about ready. I'm gonna use a knife. I'm gonna go into some phthalo blue I've got already here. Don't need a whole bunch on it. And we're gonna go into some out of white. I was gonna say we're gonna use some white, but that did not work out. Gotta use the last bit of this 200 milliliter tube. Got like barely any. Just barely. You can actually scoop the rest of this sucker out with a palette knife because he's not cooperating. Whenever you have a long, skinny one, that's a huge helper. Getting the rest of that paint out because it doesn't like to cooperate when you have those bigger ones. All right, now we're just going to go into some titanium white and some phthalo blue, and then a little bit of yellow, and then we're going to be mixing up a nice sea green. And you grab a bunch of white with the green. And it's more towards the blue side, remember that. And it helps if you want to have multiple tiers of this blue. To have different stacks of strictly phthalo blue. Just so you can kind of vary up the colors and the values and stuff. So this is what I've got on my palette. Got two different types of greens. I got my little blue, and then I'm going to have another bit of blue here shortly. You know what? I'm going to edge or line the edge with just a little bit purple and white while I'm thinking of it, because white and purple sand actually blends pretty well. Because wet sand is typically white. I mean, purple. Sorry. So like this. I don't see too much of it either. I've actually added way too much. Way too much of the dark tones, so I need to really tone back on it and go into some white and almost make it a gray. There, just like that. So Sheila, have you ever painted a beach before? Or what would you prefer to learn to paint first if you were to learn? Or when, since you got your paint? Being that you're the only person here, we can have a Q&A session, and it would be super easy. Oh, disregard, there are two people. I stand corrected. Here, let's grab you. Go into some nice blue colors right here. Maybe even a tiniest smidge of greens. Yes. And we'll just kind of pull like that. Pull to the side. Using mostly blues and whites. I have never painted a beach, and I'm thinking on one of the lone tree, on the one of a lone tree, or some sort of landscape. Awesome. The lone tree. Was that one that I painted? Or is that a different, you talking about something entirely different and I am just completely off? Goodness. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. You may not have. I did one of a single tree. It was standing on top of a mountain with the waterfall coming out of it, out of the tree itself. It was pretty good. It was pretty entertaining to paint. One that I don't know if I can replicate, to be totally honest. Hmm. All right. Now to put in the final Jared touches, the waves. Just a couple little settles. What time is it? 8:30. A little bit too late to go to Hobby Lobby, but that's okay. Tomorrow I'll go, and we'll get this guy framed. This one, after all, deserves a frame because this actually turned out a lot better than I intended it to. Thank you, God, for the lesson, because I had no intentions of doing it this well. Now the last little bit of work to do is to just kind of scribble in the edges right here. Yeah. Make sure everything's covered because you don't want your edges to be shown and bare. It just doesn't look good. My sketches and paintings, paintings or sketches always involve animals or flowers. I want to explore. You know what? I have a piece of advice for you then. If you want to explore, just go take pictures whenever you go out hiking or something, and then go paint a compilation of your little adventures. That's sometimes what I do. So I like to paint compilations or pictures of whatever I do. Look at this. So right now I'm just kind of painting the edges while I'm talking. Feel free to comment whenever you're getting a chance or opportunity. I think she's done. What do y'all think? Not bad for just half paying attention. Oh, let's see. One thing that I can do, and I shall, is just kind of scribble in some bushes here. Some final sand lines, and I think that is a finished painting. Now to put in the signature. I don't know what color to use. And we'll just stick with the typical crimson. Thank you. This one was a lot of fun. I'm going to sign it right down here with a tiny, tiny paintbrush. And today is the 20th, 7/20. 20. All right. I'm surprised I knocked that out in 2.5 hours. That's the most fun painting I've had in a while. There we go. Current masterpiece. So my framer, I'm going to keep her name hidden, but she's going to be super excited about this thing. The last couple paintings I did, they were beach painting. Well, the last couple beach paintings that I framed, she was super excited to frame, and she got mad at me when I didn't come to her. Well, I didn't even know her schedule, but she got mad at me when I didn't come to her on like one of my mountain paintings. That was probably my best painting other than this one, because this actually kind of looks realistic. And you know what? Actually, I think there's one thing I'm going to add. I'm going to go add some sea oats. Yep, that's what we're doing. We're adding sea oats because we can. And we're going to do that by going into some brown, some yellow, to kind of rich up the colors. On second thought, yeah, maybe we'll just. Just kind of tap it in. Nah, actually, on second thought, I'm just going to leave it as is. It's good. That's a finished painting. I'm done. I'm not going to mess with it. I'll do that with another painting. There will be no sea oats today. I believe I'm going to call it a night after that. So let me know what you think. I'm going to scoot it back real quick, or scoot myself back. I'm going to zoom in for y'all. We'll move my chair out of the way so y'all can see really close what everything is going on here. Let's see here. Let's get y'all in real close. God bless. Look at all that detail. Man. All right, guys. That is all. I will come up with a title for this eventually. I'm not sure what I'm going to call it. Maybe Magnificent Dunes. I don't know. We'll see. But this is the result of today's painting session. And I hope y'all enjoyed it. I'd like y'all, I appreciate y'all coming on and watching. And those of y'all who stuck out to the end, props to y'all. And God bless y'all. I'd like to pray for y'all. I speak peace over y'all. I speak joy and happiness and patience with those who give you a hard time. And I pray that y'all have a wonderful night's sleep. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless y'all and have a wonderful evening. Love y'all. Bye.